This is going to be another heart-touching Taekook love story. Please enjoy. The hospital room was quiet in a way Jungkook had never experienced before. It was not the peaceful quiet that comes after laughter, not the calm silence of sleep. It was heavy, pressing against his chest until breathing felt difficult. A tiny cry broke the stillness. Jungkook slowly turned his head towards the small, transparent crib beside the bed. Inside it lay a newborn baby wrapped in a soft white blanket. His son, Yujun. The baby's face was red and prickled. The tiny fist clenched, his lips trembled as he cried softly. Jungkook stood there unmoving, staring at him as if he was afraid the moment would shatter if he moved too fast. This was supposed to be a happy moment. This was supposed to be a moment when a father smiles, when tears come from joy, when families celebrate new life. But Jungkook felt none of that. His eyes shifted slowly towards the hospital bed. Yona lay there, her face pale, her eyes closed, her chest unmoving. The machines that once been turning off their head. There were no beeping sound anymore, no sigh of life. She was gone. Jungkook's finger trembled as he held on to the edge of the bed. His throat burned, but no sound came out. He had cried earlier, cried until his chest hurt, his voice disappeared. Now there were no tears left, only a hollow edge. 2 hours ago, Yona had smiled at him weakly. "Take care of him," she had whispered, and then she was gone. Jungkook walked closer to the crib, reached out hesitantly, his fingers brushing against Yujun's tiny hand. The baby's fingers wrapped around his finger instantly as if holding on his. Jungkook's breath hinged. I don't know how, he whispered, his voice breaking. "I don't know how to be your parent." Yujun continued to cry softly, unaware of the weight of his existence carried behind Jungkook. The door opened quietly. Yona's mother stepped inside, her eyes swollen and red. The moment she saw Yujun, she covered her mouth, her body shaking as she let out a sob. "Oh, Yona," she cried, "my baby." Yona's father stood behind her, his shoulders slumped, his face empty with grief. He walked towards the bed slowly and placed a trembling hand over Yona's. The Jeon family arrived soon after. Jungkook's mother hugged herself tightly, tears streaming down her face as she looked between Yona and the baby. His father stood stiffly, trying to be strong, but his eyes betrayed his pain. No one spoke much. There were no words that could fix this. Jungkook picked Yojun up carefully, holding him close to his chest. The baby's crying slowly softened, his tiny head resting against Jungkook's heartbeat. For the first time since Yona's death, Jungkook felt something cracked inside him. A promise formed silently in his heart: "I'd protect you no matter what." Years ago, everything had been different. Jungkook and Yona had met when they were children, running barefoot through the neighborhood streets, sharing ice cream. Yona had always been free-spirited. She laughed loudly, spoke honestly, and hated being told what to do. Jungkook, on the other hand, learned earlier how to hide parts of himself. When Jungkook came out as the world didn't end, but it didn't stay the same either. People talked, some supported him, some judged him, and some pitied him. His family accepted him, but their acceptance came with fear. The Jian family business was old, powerful, and traditional. They needed an heir. They needed stability. One night, his parents sat him down in the living room. "Jungkook," his father said carefully, "we need you to think about the future." "I have," Jungkook replied calmly. His mother hesitated. "The business, the shareholders, they are all worried." "About what?" Jungkook asked, Already knowing the answer, you don't have a family, his father said. No wife, no child. Jungkook clenched his jaw. I don't need a wife to run a business, but they think you do. His mother said softly, we just need a baby, and here. After that, you can live however you want. The world felt like knives. You want me to marry a woman? Jungkook said slowly, use her to have a child and then divorce her? His father looked away. It's practical. Jungkook stood up abruptly. It's cruel. That night Jungkook went. They sat on the rooftop, city lights glowing below them. They want me to ruin someone's life, Jungkook said bitterly. Yona listened quietly, her expression serious. After a long silence, he spoke. What if it's not ruining anyone's life? Jungkook frowned. What do you mean? I don't want to get married, Yona said honestly. I don't want a husband controlling my life, but I don't hate the idea of having a child. Jungkook stared at her. What if we help each other? She continued. We get married on paper, have a baby through surrogacy, no romance, no expectations. We live our own lives. You are serious? Jungkook asked. She nodded. Marriage doesn't define happiness. For me, freedom does. Jungkook's voice softened. You don't want to trap. I don't want to trap you. You wouldn't. Yona smiled. We will be partners, friends, and that's how it happens. They married quietly, lived separately, respected each other. 6 months later, Yona got pregnant through surrogacy. Jungkook's family was overjoyed. Yona took everything in stride. Dr. Vijay's teasing Jungkook about being a nervous father, reminding him not to overthink. I will be fine, she said often. You worry too much. He didn't know those words would haunt him. Now she was gone. The funeral was quiet and heavy. Black umbrellas filled the sky as rain poured down. Jungkook stood beside Yona's grave, holding Yujun close. The baby slept peacefully, unaware of the goodbye happening around him. I'm sorry, Jungkook whispered. I couldn't protect you. Yona's parents stood nearby, devastated. Jungkook bowed deeply to them. I promise, he said, was shaking. I will raise Yujun well. They nodded through tears. Life after that felt like a blur. Jungkook returned to the mansion with a baby and a grief he didn't know how to carry. The nights were worst. Yujun cried endlessly. Jungkook tried feeding him, rocking him, walking around the room, but nothing worked. Please, Jungkook whispered desperately at 3 in the morning, sweat covering his forehead. Please stop crying. The baby only cried louder. Jungkook sank onto the floor, holding Yujun awkwardly his back against the bed. I don't know what I am doing, he said quietly. I need her, but Yuna was not there. The Jian family tried to help, but Jungkook could see the on everyone's face. One morning, his mother spoke gently. Jungkook, we should hire a nanny. He didn't argue. Across the city, Kim Taehyung stood in front of the small, empty apartment. The silence inside was suffocating. His parents had died in an accident months ago. Everything after that had been fallen apart. School, stability, security. He needed a job, any job. When he saw the advertisement for a live-in nanny position, he hesitated. I have never done this, he murmured to himself, but desperation pushed him. The Jian mansion gates were tall and intimidating. Taehyung stood outside holding his documents tightly, his heart pounding. Please, he thought, just give me a chance. Inside the mansion, Jungkook sat in the living room, Yujun sleeping in his arms. His eyes were tired, his face pale. The butler approached him. Sir, the applicant has arrived. Jungkook nodded slowly. Send him in. The door opened. Taehyung stepped inside, bowing politely. My name is Kim Taehyung, he said softly. I'm here for the nanny position. Jungkook barely looked up at first, but when Eugene straightened and started to fuss, Taehyung instinctively stepped closer. May I? Asked gently. Jungkook hesitated, then nodded. The moment Taehyung held Eugene, something unexpected happened. The baby stopped crying. Jungkook's eyes widened slightly. Taehyung smiled softly, rocking Eugene gently. It's okay, he whispered. I'm here. For the first time in weeks, the mansion felt quieter. Jungkook watched it silently. He didn't know it yet, but this moment marked the beginning of everything changing. Morning light entered the Jeon mansion softly, spreading across the wide windows and polished floors. The house was still quiet, but it was no longer empty. A soft humming sound echoed from the nursery. Taehyung sat on the rocking chair, Eugene resting against his chest. The baby's small fingers were closed around Taehyung's shirt, his breathing slow and peaceful. Taehyung hummed an old song his mother used to sing when he was scared at night. Jungkook stood at the doorway unnoticed. He didn't sleep well. He barely did these days, but when he passed the nursery and heard that gentle humming, something in his chest loosened. Jungkook leaned against the doorframe, quietly watching. Taehyung's face looked calm, warm. There were no nervousness, no hesitation. He handled Yeojun as if he has done this his whole time. Jungkook swelled hard. Why does he look like a parent? Than I do? Yeojun stirred slightly and let out a small sound. Taehyung smiled instantly. Taehyung, good morning, little one. Did you sleep well? Yeojun blinked slowly, his eyes finding Taehyung's face. A tiny smile appeared on his lips. Taehyung laughed quietly. Ah, you are smiling already. You must be in a good mood. Jungkook's breath catch. Yeojun rarely smiled. Jungkook stepped back silently, unsure of what he was feeling. Days passed slowly, but something in the mansion had changed. The crying at night reduced. Eugene started sleeping for longer hours. The staff moved around more easily, less tense. Taehyung became a familiar presence, always nearby, always attentive. He learned Eugene's habit quickly, the way Eugene liked to be held while feeding, the way he calmed down faster when someone gently patted his back, the soft sound he made before falling asleep. Taehyung treated Eugene like a person, not like a baby. Taehyung, he said one afternoon while changing Eugene's clothes, your dad looks very scary, but he worries a lot. Eugene gurgled. Taehyung smiled. I think you are growing up handsome like him, but please don't be as serious, okay? Jungkook passed by door, stopped. He didn't mean to listen, but his face refused to move. Taehyung, your mom, he continued softly, must have loved you a lot. His voice grew gentler, almost friendly. Jungkook felt his chest tighten. One evening, Jungkook returned home after later than usual. A meeting had dragged. His head throbbed from stress. He expected chaos. Instead, the house was calm. He heard soft laughter from the living room. Jungkook paused. Taehyung sat on the floor with Yeojun. Colorful toys scattered around them. Yeojun sat supported by pillows, his eyes wide with excitement. Taehyung shook a small rattle. Gently, Taehyung, look over here. Yeojun laughed, a clear, happy laugh. Jungkook froze. It was the first time he had heard that sound. Jungkook's heart escaped painfully. Taehyung noticed him and quickly stood up. Taehyung, sir, welcome home. Jungkook nodded slowly. He laughed. Taehyung smiled. Yes, he likes sounds. Jungkook knelt down hesitantly in front of Hyojun. Jungkook, Hyojun. The baby stared at him seriously, then turned his head towards them and laughed again. Jungkook felt something twisted inside him. Chelsea? No, something else. Later At night, Jungkook woke up suddenly. His chest tightened and breathed uneven. The room felt dark, suffocating. Yejun's face flashed in his mind. Yona's face flashed in his mind. Her smile, her weak voice, take care of him. Jungkook sat up, clenching his chest. Jungkook, Yona. His hands trembled. He tried to steady his breathing, but it only got worse. A soft knock came to the door. Taehyung, sir, are you okay? Jungkook didn't answer. The door opened slowly. Taehyung stood there, hesitant. I heard noises. Jungkook looked at him, eyes red. For a moment, neither spoke. Taehyung walked in quietly and stood near the bed. Taehyung, do you want water? Jungkook shook his head. Silence filling the room again, but this time it didn't feel as heavy. Taehyung sat down on the chair beside the bed. Taehyung, I lost my parents recently too. Jungkook's eyes flickered towards him. Taehyung didn't look at Jungkook. His fingers twisted together. Taehyung, sometimes nights are the hardest. Jungkook let out a shaky breath. Jungkook, I don't know how to live like this. Taehyung nodded slowly. You don't have to know right now. Those words stayed with Jungkook long after Taehyung left. Weeks turned into months. Yejun grew stronger. His cheeks became rounder, his eyes brighter. Taehyung became deeply attached, though he tried to hide it. He cooked baby food carefully, researching recipes. He washed Yejun's clothes himself, afraid the machine would be too rough. He talked to Yejun constantly, even though the baby could not understand the words. Jungkook noticed everything. He noticed how Taehyung never complained, even when tired, how he stayed awake at night without being asked, how he smiled at Yejun like the baby was the most precious thing in the world. One afternoon, Jungkook came home. He found Taehyung asleep on the couch, Yejun lying on his chest, both breathing soundly. Jungkook stood there for a long time. This feels wrong, he thought. Is this feeling right? The gentle covered them. He gently covered them with a blanket. The Jeon family slowly accepted them as more than a nanny. Jungkook's mother often called him to the kitchen. Mother, Taehyung, eat properly, you are too thin. Taehyung bowed politely. Thank you, ma'am. Grandfather watched Taehyung with thoughtful eyes. Grandfather, the boy has a good heart. Jungkook overheard that and felt strangely proud. One day, Yejun took his first step. It happened suddenly. Taehyung sat on the floor, arms open. Taehyung, come here, Yejun. Slowly, Yejun bobbled, fell, then tried again. Jungkook watched it from behind, heart in his throat. Yejun took 3 steps, then 4, and fell straight into Taehyung's arms. You did it, you did it. Jungkook's eyes burned. He had missed many firsts, but he couldn't bring himself to regret Taehyung being there. That night, Jungkook sat alone in the office. He stared at his hands. When did I start depending on him? He wondered. He didn't know the answer. Time moved quietly. 1 full year passed. Yejun now called it out sounds that almost felt like words. He followed them everywhere. He can become careful. He reminded himself constantly, I'm just an nanny, but his heart didn't listen. One afternoon, Jungkook planned to take Yejun to the garden. Jungkook, Taehyung, can you please dress him? Taehyung nodded yes. As Taehyung buttoned Yejun's shirt, Yejun suddenly grabbed his face with both hands. Yejun looked straight at Taehyung and said clearly, Yejun, Mama. The words stopped. Taehyung froze. Jungkook froze. The air felt heavy. Taehyung's hand trembled. Yejun, no. Jungkook didn't speak. Yejun smiled proudly, repeating, Mama. Taehyung looked at Jungkook in panic. Taehyung, sir, I didn't teach him. Jungkook swallowed hard. Jungkook, it's okay. No one corrected the baby. The wand stayed in the air long after it was spoken. Mama. Taehyung stood frozen in front of Yejun, his hands still hovering near the small buttons of the child's shirt. His heart pounded so loudly that he was sure Jungkook could hear it. Jungkook stood a few steps behind them, space equally still. No one spoke. Yujun looked at Taehyung to Jungkook, confused by the sudden silence. Then he smiled again. Taehyung's throat went dry. Yujun, he whispered, unsure what to say. I'm not. He stopped himself. What was he then? Taehyung slowly turned to look at Jungkook. His eyes were filled with panic, guilt, and fear of crossing a line he was never meant to touch. Taehyung, sir, I'm sorry, I really didn't. Jungkook raised his hand slightly. Jungkook, it's okay. His voice came out low, controlled, but inside his heart was anything but calm. Taehyung searched his face, trying to understand what Jungkook was thinking. There was no anger there, no discomfort either, only shock and something deeper. Jungkook walked closer and crouched down in front of Yujun. Jungkook, Yujun. The baby looked at him happily. Jungkook forced a small smile. I'm dead. Yujun nodded seriously, as if that was the most obvious thing in the world. Then he turned back to Taehyung. Yujun, Mama. Taehyung closed his eyes. No one corrected him. That night, the house felt different. After that day, things became awkward in ways neither Jungkook nor Taehyung knew how to handle. Taehyung started being more careful. He kept a little distance, avoided staying alone with Jungkook for too long, and reminded himself again and again that he was just a nanny. But Yujun didn't understand distance. He followed them everywhere, calling out Mama whenever he wanted attention. He cried if Taehyung left the room and refused to sleep unless Taehyung stayed beside him. The Jian family noticed. Jungkook's mother watched quietly one evening as Taehyung rocked Yujun to sleep. Mother, he really loves you. Taehyung smiled weakly. He's just a child. She shook her head gently. Children don't give their hearts so easily. Taehyung said nothing. Jungkook standing near the stairs heard every word. Jungkook found himself noticing Taehyung more than ever. He noticed how Taehyung tied hair when cooking, how he frowned slightly when worried about Yujun, how he smiled without realizing it was when Yujun laughed. He noticed the warmth Taehyung brought into the house, into his life. At first, Jungkook tried to ignore it. You are confused, he told himself. You are lonely, that's all. But loneliness didn't explain the tight feeling in his chest when Taehyung laughed with someone else. It didn't explain why Jungkook's eyes followed Taehyung automatically when he entered the room. It didn't explain why Jungkook felt calm when Taehyung was near. One evening, Jungkook came home early and found Taehyung in the garden with Yujun. Taehyung sat on the grass, Yujun in his lap, pointing at flowers. Taehyung, that's a rose. Careful, it has thorns. Yujun bubbled excitedly. Jungkook stood at the door watching. The setting sun painted Taehyung in soft golden light. For a moment, Jungkook imagined this scene differently. Not a nanny, not an employee, but a family. The thought scared him. That night, Jungkook couldn't sleep. He got out of the bed and walked towards the garden, hoping the cool air would clear his head. Taehyung was there. He stood near the trees, looking up at the sky. Taehyung didn't notice Jungkook at first. Jungkook stopped a few steps away. Jungkook, you are awake? Taehyung flinched slightly and turned around. Taehyung, sir, I'm sorry. Did I wake you up? Jungkook shook his head. No. An awkward smile followed. Taehyung looked down, gripping his hands together. Taehyung, about Yujun calling me that. Jungkook interrupted gently. You don't have to explain. Taehyung looked up surprised. Jungkook hesitated, then spoke honestly. You have been more of a parent to him than anyone else. Taehyung's eyes widened. Taehyung, that's not true. You are his father. Jungkook nodded. I am, but you are his safe place. Taehyung didn't know what to say, neither did Jungkook. They stood there, close enough to feel each other's presence. far enough to keep them distance. A week later, everything changed. It was an accident. Jungkook had gone to the garden late at night again. Taehyung followed to bring him a jacket, worried it was cold. Taehyung, sir, you will catch a cold. Jungkook turned around quickly. They collided. Taehyung lost his balance. His hands grabbed Jungkook's shirt instinctively. Jungkook's hand went to Taehyung's waist too. Studying him, they froze. Their faces were inches apart. Taehyung's breath hinged. Jungkook leaned back slightly to create distance, but his foot slipped. Their lips brushed just for a second, but that second felt endless. Taehyung pulled back immediately, eyes wide. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Jungkook couldn't speak. His heart was racing. Taehyung stepped away quickly. Taehyung, good night, sir. He rushed back inside, leaving Jungkook alone in the garden, shaken to his core. The days that followed were unbearable. Taehyung avoided Jungkook completely. Jungkook couldn't focus on work. They passed each other in the silence. Their eyes met briefly, then looked away. At night, Jungkook replayed the moment again and again, the softness, the warmth, the way it felt right. One night, Jungkook finally broke. He knocked on Taehyung's door. No answer. He knocked again. The door opened slowly. Taehyung stood there, eyes tired. Taehyung, sir. Jungkook swelled. Jungkook, we need to talk. Taehyung stepped aside silently. They sat across from each other, the space between them heavy with unspoken words. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair. Jungkook, I have been trying to ignore this. Taehyung's heart pounded. Jungkook, I told myself it's wrong, that you are young, that you work for me, that this family doesn't need more confusion. Taehyung looked down. Jungkook, but I can't lie anymore. He took a deep breath. Jungkook, I like you. No, I think I love you. Taehyung's breath stopped. Taehyung, sir. Jungkook's voice shook. I don't want to replace you now. I don't want to disrespect her memory. I don't want to lose what we have built. Taehyung's eyes filled with tears. Taehyung, I tried so hard not to feel this way, he whispered, but this house, you. Jungkook looked at him, vulnerable and hopeful. Taehyung stood up slowly and walked towards him. Taehyung, I love Yujun and I care about you more than I should. Jungkook stood too. They didn't rush. Jungkook cupped Taehyung's face gently, giving him time to pull away. Taehyung didn't. This time was slow, careful, filled with emotion rather than desire. It was soft, reassuring, full of promise. The world didn't fall apart. The Jian family noticed the change but didn't question it. Yojun was happier than ever. One morning, Yojun stood between them, holding both their fingers. Yojun, Mama, Daddy. Jungkook smiled. Taehyung laughed softly, tears in his eyes. Months later, they stood together, not as employer and nanny, but as parents. They married quietly, no pressure, no lies, just love. In the end, Jungkook realized something important. Family was never about following rules. It was about choosing each other, and Taehyung had been home all along. Morning sunlight filled the Jian mansion, warm and gentle, like it had finally learned how to belong there. The kitchen smelled of pancakes. Taehyung stood near the stove, wearing an apron that was slightly too big for him. His hair was messy, eyes still sleepy, but his lips craved into a soft smile as he prepared a pancake carefully. Taehyung, Yujin, don't touch that. It's hot. A small pair of feet padded across the floor. Yujin climbed onto a chair, resting his chin on the table, shining with excitement. Yujin, Mama. Taehyung turned, pretending to be serious. Taehyung, Mama is busy. Mama is cooking. Yujin giggled, swinging his leg. Behind them, Jungkook leaned against the doorframe, coffee in his hand, watching the scene quietly. This was the life he never thought he would have. Jungkook, you are spoiling him, he said softly. Taehyung smiled without turning around. Taehyung, you say that every morning. Jungkook walked closer and wrapped his arm around Taehyung's waist from behind, resting his chin on Taehyung's shoulder. Jungkook and I mean it every morning. Taehyung laughed quietly. Let go, our breakfast will burn. Jungkook didn't move. Yujin clapped his hands happily. Yujin, Papa hugged Mama. Jungkook clenched it. See, he likes it. Taehyung shook his head, but his ears turned red. Breakfast was noisy. Yujin insisted on feeding himself, which resulted in pancake pieces everywhere, on the table, on the floor, and somehow on Jungkook's shirt. Jungkook stared down at the stain. Jungkook, Yujin. Yujin froze, eyes wide. Then Taehyung spoke calmly. Taehyung, Papa's shirt is not food. Yujin looked between them. Yujin, sorry, Papa. Jungkook's expression melted instantly. Jungkook, it's okay. Taehyung smiled, watching the way Jungkook softened so easily around their son. After breakfast, they sat together in the living room. Yujin lay on the carpet playing with blocks. Taehyung sat beside him, helping him stack them carefully. Taehyung slowly, like this, the tower grew taller. Yujin, Mama, look. Taehyung, wow. That's amazing. Jungkook sat on the couch, watching them both. There were moments when Jungkook still remembered the past, the pain, the loss, the loneliness, but those memories no longer hurt the way they used to, because now he had this. Later that day, they went out together. Nothing special, just a walk in the park. Taehyung held Yujin's hand on one side, Jungkook on the other. Yujin sang their hands happily as they walked. Yujin, Mama, Papa, faster. Jungkook laughed. Slow down. Taehyung smiled at Jungkook. They sat on the bench under a tree. Yujin ran around, chasing pigeons and laughing loudly. Taehyung rested his head on Jungkook's shoulder. Taehyung, do you ever think about how strange life is? Jungkook hummed all the time. Taehyung, we didn't plan this. Jungkook wrapped an arm around him, but I wouldn't change it. Taehyung looked up at him. Taehyung, me neither. They watched Yujin trip and fall on the grass. Both stood up immediately. Jungkook, Yujin. But before they could reach him, Yujin stood up on his own, brushing his knees. Yujin, I'm okay. Taehyung laughed in relief. He is getting strong. Jungkook nodded proudly, just like his mama. Taehyung rolled his eyes. And Papa? That night, Taehyung lay on the bed reading a storybook to Yujin. Taehyung, once upon a time, there was a little star who was afraid of dark. Yujin yawned, his eyes slowly closing. Jungkook leaned against the door, watching quietly. Taehyung closed the book gently and tucked the blanket around Yujin. Taehyung, good night, my love. Yujin murmured sleepily. Yujin, night, Mama, Papa. Jungkook's heart felt full. After leaving the room, Jungkook pulled Taehyung into a gentle hug. Jungkook, thank you. Taehyung looked confused. For what? Jungkook, for choosing us. Taehyung smiled softly and rested his forehead against Jungkook's. Taehyung, you are my family. I didn't choose. I belonged. Jungkook kissed his forehead gently. Later that night, they sat on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, city lights glowing below. Taehyung leaned into Jungkook's chest. Taehyung, do you think Yuna would be okay with this? Jungkook was quiet for a moment. Jungkook, I think she would. He smiled and said, we worry too much. Taehyung clenched softly. Jungkook tightened his hold. She trusted us with him, and we kept that promise. Taehyung closed his eyes. The house behind them was quiet, peaceful, complete. Inside, a little boy slept softly, loved beyond measure, and for the first time in a long time, all three of them were exactly where they meant to be. The end. I hope you enjoyed the story. I don't know what should I say, but yeah, I am running around a lot because of some documents issue I have been going through. I don't know what was in my mind while I was filling my documents, and I removed my surname from my first name, and that is how this mess started going on, because now that I don't have my surname, I have been going through a lot of trouble. So now I'm trying to get back my surname in all my documents, legal documents, so that I don't have to face that again. I hope this will end soon. See you again. Bye bye. Love you. Bye.